Well, good evening and welcome to Kingdom Atlanta Live. It's your girl, Cheryl, your hostess with the mostest. So excited about tonight's show. Oh my gosh, you just won't even believe how much I love my guest. So before I talk about her, just give you a little information about the show. Kingdom Atlanta, we usually air Tuesday nights. And if I do not have a live show, then I'm on Facebook and then immediately following on Instagram doing my prophetic pop ups. So don't forget to tune in. My Instagram is Cheryl Scribes, and you can find me here on Facebook on this page. And also, I want to remind you to please, please, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is my name, Cheryl Merritt. All right. Well, without further delay, I am pleased. Let me just give you a little bit of background. Well, let me bring her up because then I want to see her face as I get this background. My guest tonight is life coach, certified life coach. All right. Not just a life coach, a certified life coach and inspirational speaker, Jennifer Bell. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Jennifer.
You already have me laughing.
I know. That's how we do, right? We be cracking up at each other.
I know. It's great
Well,
to be here.
welcome to Kingdom Atlanta Live. Thank you so much for being here. Just so grateful for your time. And let me just start off letting you guys know Jennifer and I met the summer right before our freshman year at Northside High School in the Performing Arts summer program where we did West Side Story. And throughout our high school career, we had the majority of our classes together, and including dance classes, English. I don't know what else we had. We had a lot of classes together. We were also friends that hung out a little bit, and we were both cheerleaders. So we really have a lot of history. If you read my post the other day, I talked about how either her parents or my parents were taking us down to Georgia State's library to do research for papers, when you had to go to the library to do research, right?
Right.
Until Jennifer got a car and she could drive us. And just a lot of fun, just a lot of great memories about Northside. But this isn't just about a trip down memory lane. This is about 40, right? 40 plus year, because we just celebrated our 40th reunion, friendship. And Jennifer and I have many similar life experiences. And I think because of that, I'm really interested to hear her story because I know that the title of this is Everyday Resilience. And just without even hearing the depths of what she's going to share, I know some of the resilience that she's had just because I've had to have some of that same resilience in trying to be an entrepreneur, having ideas, wanting to be a creative, et cetera, et cetera. But without further delay, I'm going to allow Jennifer to make some comments and introduce herself as well.
Okay, where do I begin? You summed that up really well about our high school life. I mean, you made being at Northside High School of Performing Arts fun because we could share the academic side, the cheerleading side, the dance side, and the social side. And I'm so grateful that we are still close. And we're not only close because we hang out and see each other all the time and talk every day, we are just connected.
Yes.
And whenever I see you or run into you, or I call you or you call me, there's just something that just, like you said, we have so many similarities in our path, career wise, in a way that I think that's really special. And then just that childhood bond. Well, we weren't children, but we were high school teenagers. That's really special. So thank you for thinking of me and allowing me to share on your show. And I'm so proud of what you're doing. And your prophetic spirit has been a blessing to me. And I just want you to know that always means something to me. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Let's get started, Jennifer, with I do this a lot when I have guests on and there's a topic. I like to look it up in the Merriam-Webster, which is m-w.com, instead of going to a hardback dictionary. And I looked up resilience, and I was really surprised at this first definition. And it is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused especially by compressive stress. And then the second definition is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. And then this word resilience comes from, I didn't take Latin, so I don't know, resiliere, which means to jump back or to leap. And as a physics term, it's the ability of an elastic material or tissue to absorb energy, such as from a blow, and release that energy as it springs back to its original shape. And I thought that was just so amazing of when you think about the word resilience outside of what we normally think of, okay, coming back from something, right? That's the general thing that most people would think about. But when you look at really the root of the word and meaning to jump back and to leap, and those are such dancer words, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's just so when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so Jennifer anyway. Um, but I just thought that was really, really interesting. What do you think about those definitions and what does resilience mean to you?
Well, I had to take notes so I wouldn't forget. First of all,
Mhm,
the first word that stood out was to easily come back. One of the
mhm.
definitions mentioned easy, and when you're being resilient, is not always easy,
Correct.
but it's also not necessary to force or push and make it difficult. And
Mm,
especially every day, that's what I think we need to remember is that resilience is not about making something so difficult to come back from, that you
okay.
can ease your way into your recovery or getting over or getting through something. So that stood
Okay.
out to me. And then the other thing that you did mention, yes, we are movers. We're both movers, and I'm always going to be a mover in some form of fashion, whether it's fitness
Mhm.
or dance. And jumping back, and one of our mutual friends, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Jeff Keller, called me the bounce back queen. And then other
Wow.
people start talking about how I could bounce back. So I'm dubbed the bounce back queen. So,
I
you
love
know,
it.
it does mean you have to have a certain type of energy, I believe. And because I have had to go through, one down and I'm up again and then down and up and down, that
Mhm.
bouncing back refers for me is that once I get over something, I have to get over yet another thing. So that bouncing effect. So yeah, that the adjective, that verb is very relative to my experience. So for me, resilience is just like the dictionary said, but it's about having the mental and emotional and spiritual strength first, and then the
Mm,
physical if necessary,
okay.
to be able to navigate through whatever you're going through.
Okay.
And that's the first part, is dealing with something, going through it, handling it. But then the other side of resilience, the main part is how are you on the other side of whatever that challenge or crisis was? How is your mental
Mm,
state? How's your emotional state? How is your physical state? Did you really overcome it? Or did you just experience it? You survived it, but did you
mm.
recover mentally and emotionally? And that's the other part of resilience that we don't think about.
Yeah, that's good because even you saw me say, ooh, when you said that I'm gonna take these glasses off for a minute, see if I can see a little bit. But no, they're gonna go right back on. But that is something that you don't think about. And I'm glad you broke it down into different segments or different parts or the different, it's really like the different experiences of that resilience, right? Um, Talk about when you are first faced with something and then however you want to share your story so people get an idea of what you've actually bounced back from.
Right. Let me see if I can do this in a succinct order.
Okay.
I'll just start slightly from my first season of resilience was in my career as a
Okay.
professional dancer, going
Mhm.
through auditions, learning how to find jobs, being rejected, and building up those resilient muscles to know that, okay, I have to be also flexible. If that didn't work, let me try it a different way, as far as learning how to audition, how to get a job, and then how to be a good dancer following instructions. There is so much to learn in that profession, and to handle that competition, um, in dance and in fitness, which I'll get to, is part of being resilient. I didn't know
Okay.
I was being resilient at the time, but the fact that I was able to have a successful career is because I was able to, you know, win a job, get a job, and then go months without a job, and then get another audition and make that, or lose auditions, or have to audition 6 times for the show that I did in Europe for Body and Soul. I was auditioning 6 times
Wow.
before they actually hired me. And it's because another great tap dancer who was about my height needed a partner his height. But it was more than that. But so that started my understanding of, you have to be tough to get through that type of career, and still enjoy it, have a passion for it, and be able to keep going even when you get rejected. And then my life changed, into being a fitness competitor because of one health issue, one of the first health issues that I had, which was fibroid tumors. And a lot of
Mhm.
women know about fibroid tumors. And mine started out when I was in Miami choreographing for the Miami Heat. And those were very painful. I had to have surgery, a myomectomy, and I got through that one pretty well, recovered pretty well. I was in my 30s then, and so that was the best option for me. And when I came back from Miami to New York, to Atlanta rather, back to my
Mhm.
hometown, Atlanta, um, I was continuing training, fitness training, doing some choreography and things like that. And either they didn't go away or more grew, more fibroid tumors grew. And this time
Mhm.
it was really, really extreme. And for at
Wow.
least 2 years,
Wow.
I I don't want to be graphic. I only went about 5 days a month without a cycle.
Wow.
So reverse what people normally go through.
Right.
And that was, I didn't tell a lot of people.
Mhm.
I'm not one to like people to pity me.
Right.
So I just handled it as best I could. Sometimes I would come home and go from my car to the shower, maybe taking my shoes off,
Mm.
because that's how bad the hemorrhaging was for me.
Mm.
Painful, all of that.
Wow.
So I did a lot of holistic work to help my nutrition, to see if I could help myself and mend myself. I did a lot of research about fibroids and women's reproductive health so I could understand what I was going through. And I knew it was hormonal, but didn't know exactly what was causing it. But I did everything I could to try to relieve it, everything I could. But eventually, I ended up having a hysterectomy. And a lot of people don't like to say that word because it's taboo, and oh, women
Mhm.
shouldn't do that. I was told by one of the best specialists in the world that if I didn't, I would die. That's
Wow.
how detrimental the fibroids had gotten from me. I ended up having 8. The second time, I had 8 fibroids, one the size of a grapefruit, and about 8 above, under my ribs, just all over the place. So I decided to have the surgery,
Mhm.
all right, hysterectomy. Um, in recovery, I recovered pretty well, but then 4 weeks later, is a 6-week recovery period. 4 weeks later, I ended back in the hospital, emergency, for another procedure because I had ruptured an artery. So I've gone through quite a few hospitalizations through that, but during this time, the
Mhm.
researching and trying to improve myself is when I really started helping myself improve health wise. I ate
Okay.
healthier. I was already relatively fit because I was
Mhm.
active, but I
Right.
started paying more attention to my nutrition. And then I started working out and training with professional athletes, very extreme working out. And by this time, I was in my 40s. So I recovered, but this sent me on a whole different path. Even though I love dancing and choreographing and really want to go into the production area of my career,
Mhm.
I transitioned because of this, what I call a shakeup, into
Mm.
health and wellness. And I became a certified fitness trainer, nutrition consultant, and eventually a life coach. because I knew
Okay.
emotions played a part in what I went through and what other people go through when they're trying to get healthy. So that was
Mhm.
my first bout of understanding, as healthy as I was, that that health situation was really dangerous, but I was able to overcome that. Um, shall I go on?
Well, that's really interesting because you're saying that that particular health incident kind of propelled you into something that was somewhat aligned to what you did already, but different in many aspects. And so having to, I guess, learn something new. And even though, like you said, you were active, but to learn a new skill and to do the competitions and really push yourself that way, just as you had done with, training and dance. That's a part I think of that kind of resilience, that thread of resilience is how am I going to move from one point to the next? And what decision you made, because you didn't have to make that decision to do that, right?
Right. We all have choices. And I could have gone and just gotten a 9 to 5 and sat down and taken it easy. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, actually, after the hysterectomy and I got fit again, I was stronger and faster than I ever been before. Even
Right.
before, when I was a fitness competitor, I was a top ranking fitness competitor with Miss Fitness USA.
Mm-hmm.
And this just made me push harder. Like, okay,
Right.
now that I'm back, let me stay healthy. And I did all I could. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I started wanting to help others because people saw how I was improving my health and everything as I aged. And that's what made me become a personal trainer and started helping other people on their wellness journey. And yeah, it's definitely a mental thing. I could have allowed that to. I was depressed while I was going through that,
Mm-hmm.
especially trying to have a relationship. People not understanding my emotions at the time. I could have
Mm-hmm.
definitely stayed stuck in a mental state or emotional state that would have would have um, prevented me
Right.
from from doing what I did. So I'm grateful that I did have that resilient muscle
Mm-hmm.
mentally to
Mm-hmm.
just transition. And that's what we have to learn to do is know how to transition. So I did. And long story short, I continued to do personal training and became a life coach because I saw the connection between the mental and the physical
Mm-hmm.
connection of well-being, and I wanted to help others navigate through that. And I was doing fine. That happened around 2008 when I had my hysterectomy.
Okay.
So for years, I was good in that point, and
Mm-hmm.
getting a little burnt out, especially by 2020, because I was training a lot online, and I'm used to being in person training people. But I was doing it, and by 2021, I'm still training people virtually, some in person, but mostly online. But I
Okay.
hadn't found a way to transition again to do something else. I really believe in doing what you're passionate about. And I knew I
Mm-hmm.
had a calling to do something else. I just, and I tried other things. As you know, I've been an insurance agent, I've done some network marketing, I've done quite a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Toastmaster actually years ago as well, around 2016. But when my father passed, I put that down because I had an
Okay.
inkling that I wanted to get my message out. I
Okay.
said that for a reason because in 2021, being burnt out, but still doing what I was doing, training a client, I had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, like
Mm-hmm.
most people, like, what? Um,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not perfect, but it was definitely a shock that people would, find out that I had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I didn't know what caused it. It left me with it didn't leave me with any physical limitations because of where the blood clot was in my brain. But
Okay.
it did leave me with um, cognition issues. So I had brain damage, and it left me with the inability to speak. And so for about a week, I wasn't able to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to teach myself to speak again because I wasn't even scheduled for speech therapy. So when I start speaking about this, sometimes I get tongue tied, and at
Yeah.
night I get a little tired. My tongue
Mm-hmm.
still gets tired, and it's been what 4 or 5 years. But I did manage to learn to speak again. I have cognitive issues that aren't that bad now, but some
Mm-hmm.
memory loss and just hand-eye coordination, some emotional things that I can't explain. I had aphasia basically.
Okay.
And so I know that I'm about in the high 90s. Other people would think I'm 100% well. I know
Mm-hmm.
my issues, but for the most part, I was able to bounce back from that. And I was just determined to figure this out. I remember waking up in the room, in the recovery room, going, I can't be like this for the rest of my life. I got to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't even feel sorry for myself or question God. I was just like, okay, God, you allowed this to happen. What are we gonna do about it?
What we're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. And that's a level of bounce back and resilience that a lot of people don't have that testimony of. Um, do you believe that just because you say you didn't blame God or anything, that your faith had a role in it, and also like your faith in God, but also your faith and belief in yourself played a huge role in both your attitude and your kind of willingness to do what was necessary to get back?
I mean, looking back, I guess so. When you're in it, you just do what comes natural.
Okay.
So for me, yeah, naturally, spiritually, naturally, I have a certain outlook on life because I know that there's so much I can control. I know that God is in
Mm-hmm.
control. I know there's a higher power. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't force anything. I don't force things to happen. I'll allow things to happen
Mm-hmm.
in their time and in their way. I think that's a spiritual element that was applied to my progress in getting through the stroke. So definitely spiritually, I just trusted that I would be okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other side, I think, of the confidence is I've always had to figure things out, and I've always been fascinated by the brain and how it functions and how we think and how we
Mm-hmm.
process things. So for me, I was like, I got some brain issues. Let me figure this out. Let me read. Let me do what the doctors are telling me to do.
Okay.
And I found it to be a challenge,
Mm.
actually. And so the emotional part really wasn't, I think the stroke also affected my emotions. And it
Mm-hmm.
was, for me, it was a protective measure. I didn't,
Okay.
you can probably ask other people who are around me, maybe witnessed some things. I was
Mm-hmm.
snappy. Sometimes I got frustrated when I couldn't speak. That was
Okay.
the most emotionally charged I was, is when I couldn't talk. And in my brain, I knew it was I was trying to say and couldn't get it out. That was frustrating. So I know I snapped. But other
Mm-hmm.
than that, I said, okay, something else to figure out. Let's figure it out.
Right.
So that's how that played into
Right.
my
That,
recovery.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, but thank you definitely for your transparency, for sharing all of those um, life events that you have bounced back and are still bouncing back from. And I'm just extremely grateful and proud of you, and just in awe of you
Well,
um, because of all of that you've been through.
I'm grateful. 2 years, not even 2 years after that, had um I had kidney stones,
Mm-hmm.
very severe, a very severe kidney stone attack, and went to the hospital, had a stent put in, had procedures done, and ended up developing sepsis. And for 2 weeks, I was walking around with sepsis and didn't even know it,
Wow.
and ended up going into septic shock. And for those who don't know, sepsis is a very dangerous blood infection. And somehow my blood got infected when I was in the hospital, or
Mm-hmm.
somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to the hospital, I was told later on, they kept saying, "You're very sick. You're very sick." That's all I could comprehend when I was in ICU.
Mm-hmm.
But they told me I had almost died. I was within 30 minutes of dying when I arrived to the hospital that day.
Wow.
And I felt my life leaving me at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that recovery was actually harder than the stroke because of the
Wow.
severity of it, and knowing that so I developed, pneumonia, fluid in my
Mhm.
lungs and my heart, kidney failure, because your organs start to shut down.
Mhm.
And so being that close to death gave me a lot to consider. It was
Mm.
different than the stroke.
Wow.
Yeah. So that
Wow.
prompted me to retire. I remember being in the hospital bed, laying there like, Lord, I really am tired. I was mentally tired. I was not being
Mm.
fulfilled. I knew I had more to offer. I've been feeling that way for a while, like I had mentioned. And I didn't know how long it would take for me to recover or how I would recover. I was told I might have to go on dialysis for a while. So I didn't know what my future would be,
Mhm.
physically or anything at the time. And I just decided I don't want to train full time anymore. I need to do something else. I'm meant to do something else.
Mhm.
And while I was in recovery, once I got home after a few weeks in the hospital, um, I decided, you know what? I know I have a message. Let me pick up that. Actually, one of my former dancers from the Miami Heat, and I spoke, and she encouraged me to join NSA, which is National Speakers Association, which I had registered years ago, but didn't really participate.
Mm.
And that's what prompted me to become now a full-fledged, full-time speaker, presenter, workshop facilitator, and
Mhm.
coach to organizations and groups about resilience and everyday resilience, or resilience through crisis, through the most difficult times in one's life, because I've experienced quite a bit of that, from
Mhm.
career to my own health to dealing with the passing of friends and family and loved ones. So that's what I speak on now, is helping people to navigate through those challenges in life. I know that was a lot.
No, this is moving exactly the way it should. That was amazing. Yeah. So your journey is just it's really leaving me speechless. Everything that you've overcome, Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah, it's hard to believe that I
Mhm.
went from up here to almost losing my life.
Mhm.
Um, looking back, would have thought that I would be in these situations with my health. But the stroke, by the way, was because of the dosage of a hormone pill I was taking for menopause. Um, so I like to be transparent, because for one, people are like,
Mhm.
what caused a stroke? I don't know if emotion played into that. You never know how your emotions, what's going on in
Mhm.
your life, may play into your dis-ease.
Mm. That's
But I
good.
know now that I don't process estrogen very well,
Okay.
because each circumstance has something to do with blood. I hate to be that blunt, but
Mhm.
you have to pay attention to what's going on in the denominators, the common denominators that are going on
Mhm.
too. So, but yeah.
Wow. Wow. So let's go to um your speaking. Um well, speaking and your coaching. What approach would you say you take? Um let's say if someone was to say, "Hey, I might be interested in your services as a life coach." Like, what do you say? Like, if they just want to do like a introductory call, what's the things that you would maybe want to know about them, and what, you shared some of what you have to offer, but what would you try to pull out of them, and how do you know that they're a good candidate to go through coaching? Because I'm saying this, I had earlier this month a psychologist on, Dr. Pam Thompson, and she talked about therapy, but she also talked about, people actually doing the work, or some people maybe still in the same spot because they're just coming to talk, but not actually doing the work to process and go through the change.
Right. I've coached before. I've been a life coach for quite a few years, had a few clients, and the main thing is to really be ready for it.
Mhm.
When you say you need a coach, the difference in coaching and therapy and counseling is
Mhm.
the medicinal part of it. I can't
Mhm.
prescribe medication and things
Mhm.
like that. What I do is you come to me with whatever your challenge is that you want help with, very specific, and I talk you through that to help you resolve it. That's the
Mhm.
difference. I will ask questions related to what you are dealing with. It may go back to your childhood, but normally we don't deal that deep unless it was required. And as a
Okay.
coach, licensed certified coach, we're also required to recognize when someone needs a psychiatrist or a
Mhm.
psychologist
Yeah.
instead of a coach.
Yeah. And
So, yes,
and we've got a comment from C. Jordan Connie, and she says therapy does not help unless you put in the work. Indeed. That's
absolutely.
that's right. I mean, hey, a lot of stuff won't work unless you work it, right?
Exactly. Look,
Some things you may be able to slide through, but when it's, when you're wanting a change, a real change, life change or behavioral change, there's going to have to be some work that you put in.
absolutely. Like Tom Cruise said in the movie, help me to help you. I can't just tell you what to do. I can't just make you better. I can't just make your life better by talking to you. I guide you. That's what we all
Mhm.
do. So my
Mhm.
job is to guide you, and you have to be open and willing. And for me, I will vet my potential life coaching clients to see if they are open to what I have to offer, because it may not be a good fit. I might not be the person for them. So I try to recognize that right away with my
Mhm.
clients. Um, Coaching for me is something that is third right now, because it can be expensive for certain people to afford it. So I like to do small groups and things like that, so that those who may not be able to afford one-on-one coaching can still get that personalized guidance, even in a group,
Right.
if they can't do it one-on-one. Because if
Right.
you really listen and apply what I'm offering, apply it, consider it at least,
Mhm.
then that's how you will benefit from any type of therapy or coaching. So um, my joy is getting those aha moments, like, oh, I didn't think about that. No, I haven't tried that before. Let me try
Mhm.
that. So that's what I get out of coaching. Right now, my preference is to work with larger groups,
Okay.
whether in the corporate setting or retreats or workshops, wherever organizations want to do breakouts and a series of
Okay.
sessions to really break down some things. You know,
Mhm.
my keynote is to hopefully inspire large groups and give them takeaways as well.
Mhm.
But when you really want that more intimate breakdown of what I do, those smaller groups and then the one-on-ones are also what I offer.
Can you share some of the topics that you might cover in with your groups or in a corporate setting?
Right now it's all based around resilience,
Okay.
but I do redefine what that is. So, say for a corporate organization, they may be a new company that's doing great, but those leaders may want to inspire their peers or their team to know how to handle possible upcoming challenges.
Mhm.
How do you mentally prepare for those changes that are coming? Or how do you deal with the changes that have already taken place in the office? Offices there are always some shakeups, changes in the staff and the team and directors and ownership and
Mhm.
mergers and things like that. And although I may not know your business specifically, I'm there to say, what do you need to do mentally to help yourself navigate through these challenges? How do you think? What is your thinking style? How do you
Mhm.
respond? How do you manage your emotions when things get um, stressful in the workplace? How do you merge your personal life and your professional life? So those are the things I talk to with leaders or team members to just help them think through how to process their day-to-day life at work. And then I also help people with their personal lives. How do you handle the transitions that go on in life or the
Mhm.
challenges that come up? How do you prepare? And that's when it comes to the everyday resilience. Every day we're dealing with something. How was your day to day, Cheryl? There's something you had to deal with, I'm sure. no matter how minute, we have to figure out how to get through that.
Yes, exactly. Like you said, dealing with the just everyday life challenges, things expected to be challenging and unexpected.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Right. So if you can deal with I think that's why I was able to handle some of those major things, because I had already honed those skills. Resilience is a skill if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Being composed, being flexible,
Mm-hmm.
you know, knowing how to think before you react, being emotionally regulated.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are required in the simplest things, every day. And then I also speak about, one of my speeches is, let that shake up shift you. And that's really
Mm-hmm.
for those who have um, gone through something very detrimental, whether it's surviving a health issue, going
Mm-hmm.
through a health issue,
Mm-hmm.
grief, an accident, a shakeup at work, or financial.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you really allow what happened to you help you evolve as a person? What did that do for you, not just to you? So I like to talk about how do you let those shakeups shift you into a better person? Because I know I've been shifted through
Mm-hmm.
every downfall that I've had. I've been shifted. If you don't allow yourself to shift or accept the shift, you stay stuck.
Right. And I just love how you've allowed each test to become a testimony and to allow it to propel you into, or not even necessarily propel you, but just reveal another side of you.
Yeah.
And then how you said even things working together. You actually started Toastmasters, right? You had signed up for the NSA before, but never, didn't pick it back up until, your colleague brought it up to you again. So um, and I just think that's a part of times and seasons too, is things that we know, we feel, and it's some kind of way, it's still there, but at the right time, it's, okay, this is the time for that now. It's just evident. You just got to move into it. You can't stay stuck. And just about the, just to bring it back from a kingdom perspective, we talk about things not working unless you work it. That's the same as the word. The book is not going to open itself, or your app is not going to open itself. You have to push play or open it and read it, and you have to let it sink in. And then you have to not only just read it, you have to figure out, okay, well, how can I apply this, right? If I want this particular thing to work in my life, this scripture that I'm reading, this happened. Okay, but this is what they did. How do you align those things? And I think a lot for me is, and I'm going to go back to our creative entrepreneurial journeys, because
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, Jennifer has been such I would say a co-encourager, because we encourage one another. Iron sharpens iron. And we
Yeah.
definitely have been co-encouragers to one another to stand strong, to pursue things that we know make us happy, or despite what the world would say about it, or what the world would say, or where we should be at this point in our career, or what we should have at this point, and pushing through, kind of the noise, and moving into, like, like dancing to your own drum beat, basically, is not
Mm-hmm.
listening to, well, they want me to do this, but this is who I know I am, and wanting to feel passionate, and like I've always felt like I wanted to feel like my life stood for more than me just working a 9 to 5. And that's not to belittle anybody that has chosen any type of field of endeavor. And many people are very, very passionate about what they do. But what I chose at that time, or different times in my life, was not what other people were necessarily doing. And so sometimes there were, conversations or, comments or things about that. But just having to stand strong and say, well, I know I was blessed to be able to, like for me, work in entertainment for 25 years and be able to experience XYZ, and still even enjoy dance to a certain degree when I did dance ministry at as a vessel of praise at World Changers, and still dance around the house all the time. So there are things, that I do. I'm going to the gym now, working out, and I got spin class at 6 a.m. So, but like you said, you have to work it. And we're at also when you talk about the health aspect and the mental part. And like you said, you recognize things about when you were interested in, okay, this is tied to my brain. I'm going to research that. And it's also tied to blood issues, right? So now I'm going to figure out what works best because of that. So we each have to figure out what works best for us in our how we take care of our health, what signs we look for, things that we may not even know, what's going on in our body until, like you said, you made it just in time. Praise God. But what to do, on the other side of when you find things out, what can you do to really become resilient, to bounce back from it, to allow that. I think part of that definition was there's a that the tissues absorb energy from that. And so that even as you're going through it, your tissues are still doing, I think our bodies are just so amazing. It's just, I can't even describe it, but the tissue and the blood and the brain and how everything functions together, and us understanding and really recognizing that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Oh, you're on mute, Jennifer. I think you put us on mute. Uh-oh. Let's see. I don't see. Maybe. Okay. You good.
Y'all didn't hear me drop the mic, did you? Maybe. You said so many things there, Cheryl, because I witnessed your resilience. And it's definitely the whole thing about what's going on with your body and how it's working on the inside, and you don't know what's going on. We don't know when it's tearing down until it's too late sometimes. We also don't know how it's mending and what it's doing. And we have to allow that. That's connected to faith. You have to trust that, things are going to work out. We can't control everything. We have to allow the natural due process of things to work for us and within us. That's faith, knowing that that can happen. Sometimes the end result may not be what we want because it's all about God's will. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't make it. I was fortunate enough and blessed to make it. But I also know my part is to have faith in knowing what is possible and to release the fear of those things that I can't control. We know the prayer. And so whenever we're taking care of ourselves, our mental health, our physical health, it's all about trusting the process. I had to trust doctors. I had to trust God. I had to trust those who were looking after me to a certain degree. I had to give them grace and empathy, those who were taking care of me, but I had to do my part. I had to be patient. We have to be patient through our careers. We had to be patient because there's some things we can't force. We can put it out there, what we want to do. We can stay on that lane and trust what we know is meant for us, whether it's a 9 to 5 or not. Trust that that's what's meant for us. That's our fabric. And as we can to put the pieces together, but it's not just us. We have to trust the process and the timing that you mentioned. It's all related, and I had to just trust the process of everything I've gone through, everything that you've gone through. You've had an amazing career and you've done so much.
Thank you.
And it takes It takes resilience to say, nope, I'm not doing that because, or I'm going to try, but if it's not working, I'm bold enough, I'm discerning enough to know that I'm meant to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes courage, which is a part of resilience. Being authentic is a part of being resilient, which you are. People aren't authentic enough. Sometimes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people want to go by what everyone else has done. It may work for that person, but that's not you. If
Mm-hmm.
that is you, fine. So it may work out the same way. But trust who you are. Know who you are. Know who you were. You said it. You were, wonderfully made, uniquely made. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was a part of me knowing I'm going to have to go through this career the way I think is best for me. Sometimes I didn't make the money I wanted to make because I didn't want to do certain things in this business.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I had to take jobs I didn't want to take. I tried making money in other areas and other careers. I don't regret any of it because I learned something from all of it. I
Right.
don't, people say, you are a jack of all trades and a master of none. Actually, I've mastered quite a few things. It's possible. It doesn't, I don't want you to be confused. I don't want to cause confusion by trying to do so much at one time. Sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
trying to do too much or do too many different things, but almost everything I've done has been related to health and wellness or creativity. You've
Mm-hmm.
been very consistent in your path also, Cheryl, with creating and writing and blessing others and putting a spark in other people or help enhancing what they do by their brand and things like that. You've been very consistent. A lot of people aren't consistent. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
So resilience is a broad word. And someone told me, you're speaking of resilience. That's so broad. That's so wide. Everybody talks about resilience. Yeah, but you can always take a different look at something and realize that everyone can be resilient every day when you think about how you manage your life,
Mm-hmm.
your lifestyle, your health, your fitness, your relationships. They all require a certain type of resilience, you know, in some aspect. So,
And speaking of resilience, or maybe remembrance, because my cousin put this comment and I thought this is so cute. She says, we are co-tigering. That's right, because we're from North Side High. We're number one, and here is why. We're here to win and never give in.
I was too early.
Woo! Go Tigers.
It's so nice to reminisce. People think, when people get older, we age, it just means we have so many great memories. And you want to let
Yes.
those override some of the bad stuff. Let's just remember good stuff.
Yes.
Good times.
Yes.
And
We had fun. We had fun at Northside, child.
absolutely.
I'm here to tell you.
I feel bad for those who didn't have a good high school experience. I really
I do
enjoyed high school.
too. I do too. And there are people who just did not have great experiences. And I'm like, well, I'm blessed that I did not have that experience, that I had a great experience in high school. And, you know,
Yeah.
so
I think it's important. Are we okay on time?
yeah,
Because
we're good. We're gonna wrap in about 5 minutes.
okay, I was just gonna say, thinking about like reminiscing and enjoying your youth and remembering what you enjoyed in life. That's also important on a day-to-day basis. We get so caught up in minor things. Um, I keep little things around. I have a baby picture on my desk. I have a
Mm,
jackstone that I put away. I have a jackstone here because I used to play jacks. I keep
yes.
little things around me to remind me that we're still not supposed to take everything in life so seriously. We have to remember to play and be light
Mhm,
and put things in perspective. It's really hard for me to get upset or I can be overwhelmed. I can feel stressed, but I know how to manage it quicker now. So when you're at
mhm,
work, or if you're juggling things at home, I'm parenting a parent now in a way. Whatever you all are going through,
mhm,
put things in perspective and just breathe and try to lighten your load some kind of way. Bring some kind of light into your day because most things aren't going to last, whatever's bothering you. The
Mm-hmm.
little things that we're struggling with on a day-to-day basis, we can figure out a way to manage them. But we just have to remember to keep a light heart, a playful disposition sometimes, and that's really what I've learned, is to kind of just relax a little bit more and know that things are going to be okay. And when they're not, we'll have the strength and the spirit to handle those more difficult things when they come up.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, before I want you to let everybody know, before I let you go, I want you to let everybody know how they can reach you for your services, if they want to invite you to speak, if they would like for you to, be their life coach. How can they find you or connect with you and the like?
Sure. I am at jenniferbellspeaks.com. That's my website. And my email, you can email us at info@jenniferbellspeaks.com. I love going to retreats and speaking to small women's groups at retreats where busy professional women can relax and woosah. So I can be a guest speaker or panelist at a conference. But workshops, retreats are my sweet spot. Speaking to an organization as a keynote or coaching, we can send you information at my website. You can fill out a form on my website under contacts, jenniferbellspeaks.com.
What's the email again? I'm putting it in the chat.
Oh, sure. Info, INFO, at
Okay.
jenniferbellspeaks.com. 2 N's.
Okay.
You know how to spell it.
I know how to spell your name. Okay. So, well, Jennifer, as a prophetic mouthpiece, I'll decree and declare that the blessings of God overtake you, run you over this season, that business knocks on your door and you are ready to answer, that increase finds you, abundance finds you, that resources run after you, that by you offering your time and blessing this program based on kingdom and the kingdom perspectives and highlighting people in Atlanta that represent something that I feel was worthwhile to discuss as a kingdom perspective, that you will be blessed, a thousandfold return on your seed sown for being a guest on this show, and blessings of long life, prosperity, peace, and protection. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Cher. I really appreciate it. I really do. I'm grateful, and I wish the same. I pray the same for you as well. You will be blessed abundantly. And I'm also on IG and Facebook at Jennifer Bell ATL and YouTube at Jennifer Bell ATL.
Okay. Jennifer Bell
ATL.
Yeah, and that's on IG.
IG, Facebook, and YouTube.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm dropping that in there too. All right, Miss Jennifer. Well, thanks again. I'm going to let you have the rest of your evening back. I'll put you in the green room if you want to stand by for a few minutes.
Sure.
And I'll come in there after the show's over. All righty.
Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you
so much. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This has been, such a great show with a great friend. As a reminder, I am Cheryl Merritt, your Chief Kingdom Ambassador. You can find out more about Kingdom Atlanta at my website, kingdomatlanta.com. Please be sure to check that out. I also want to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that's Cheryl Merritt, Cheryl with an S, MERRITT, and also to follow Kingdom Atlanta on IG and Facebook. And that is going to almost end the show. I want to also advise, and I mentioned this before, but in case you are not aware, Kingdom Atlanta is self-funded, but if you would like to sow, what I do with the seed is I also sow into the lives of the less fortunate. I won't repeat my birthday story here because I repeat it a lot, but I do try to give back uniquely to people that God highlights to me that have a need, and that could come from a lot of different ways. So your seed will help me be able to be a blessing as Kingdom Atlanta, the namesake we should be to others. So if you're interested in sewing, this is my Cash App, Creator and Me LLC, $ Creator and Me LLC. And you can also, if you so choose, besides the Cash App, you can also Zelle, and that's my number. If you have my number, you know my Zelle, but I'm putting it on the screen. Or you can always DM me and find out other ways to help. So with that said, we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday with either a guest or a prophetic pop-up. I will be jumping on over to IG for just a few minutes, for a prophetic pop-up. So you can follow me there at Cheryl Scribes. And with that, we're going to call it a night and end the show. Be blessed and have a good evening.